Oh, the mistake, and McBreen's clean through on goal here to win it. What a miss from Daniel McBreen.
Fucking dog shit.
Adelaide 4, Macarthur 5. Western Sydney Wanderers 4, Melbourne Victory 2. Perth 1, Brisbane 3, Auckland 2, Mariners 2, Newcastle 2, Western United 6, and then Sydney FC 1, Wellington Phoenix 1. There was a lot of talk this weekend about 33 goals scored in the A-League. It's the most in the history of an A-League round. Everyone's got the trumpets out, blowing what an amazing, entertaining league it is. Well, we thought we'd get a goalkeeper on to talk about, is everyone really happy about a league that scores 33 goals in 6 fucking matches? I think the average was something like 5.8 goals per game. I thought, obviously, immediately of the great song lyrics from post-punk Melbourne band Crime and the City Solution back from the mid-'80s. And in their song, The Dictator, the guy sings, I dreamed of an ice machine. In the dream, I dragged the machine from one hot spot to the next, spots populated by brown-skinned babies who, while seemingly very young, were in fact extremely old. And all these beautiful and innocent children with their knowing eyes and their wild neurotic dances did not want my ice machine. Well, this, people, I think is where we're at in the A-League, because here on A-League Off Air, we like to swim against the fucking tide. You people can take your ice machine of goals, pumping them out, 5.8 per game. I'm no Euro snob, but Franco Baresi would not have fucking stood for this. Okay? All right, let's leave it there. Well done, everyone, on your 33 goals. Daniel McBreen, did you enjoy this, or did you just think, what the fuck is going on?
Well, I'm going to go with the positives today, Rob, because as we said before we came on air, on off air, it's a cold day in Newcastle. I've got my hoodie and my old school trackies on. I've got my Uggs on, and there's no better day than today to go, I'm going back to bed. But I'm going to come out with a positive attitude, and I'm not going to look at the fucking horrendous defending across the weekend. I'm going to talk about the 33 goals and how fantastic it is and entertaining it is. My lyrics aren't as good as yours. I just tweeted that I thought it was Motley Crue's goals, goals, goals. I thought that's what I've always thought it said. Never one to get
Motley
the
Crue,
lyrics.
wasn't it the Beach Boys? Fucking hell.
Never one to get the lyrics wrong, me, ever. So I've always thought that Motley Crue said, goals, goals, goals. But yeah, look, heaps of them, plenty to talk about. And fuck me, we've got 2 goalkeepers in a row in 2 weeks. So I don't know what the world is coming to. I don't know why we're starting to be friendly to them, but my goodness, 2 goalkeepers in a row. Now let's hear what he'll have to say about all these goals.
You need a bit of wisdom. That's what that is. And,
Well, we were actually exactly.
So,
I was thinking about this the other day. Like, the goalkeepers? My partner was saying they're like the bass player in a band, and I was thinking, no, but footballers think that goalkeepers can't play football, so they've got to be the drummer. Yeah. Surely they're the drummer in every band that is just there by mistake, aren't they?
So we're just at the back of the stage, hidden by drum kits. Yeah, they're replaceable.
Well, not anymore, Mr. Jamie Young. Well, our guest is, you may have recognised the voice. If you're watching on YouTube, you will recognise the jaw line that is, the best A-League jaw, a mix of, Bruce Wayne and Don Draper from
with a little bit of Desperate Dan thrown in for those English comics. People know the comics from years ago in England. But he's also probably the smartest goalkeeper.
Dastardly Dan, wasn't it?
No, Desperate Dan.
Desperate Dan, all right.
Not many goalkeepers I know are actually very intellectual. They're all dumb as fuck or lunatics.
But loopy.
This guy's fucking intelligent, which is, I don't know what's going on here, Jamie. you're going to be a doctor and, you're a goalkeeper as well. Isn't that an oxymoron there?
We've got to make a change to the perception of goalkeepers, and I think I'm playing a part in that. And,
it's going to take a lot more than just you, mate. The numbers are really fucking stacked against you.
I'm having a look at the league at the minute. Who's got a brain between the ears there as well? There's a few big fellas in there. So,
well, but Jamie, on the pitch, I mean, obviously you're a smart cookie off it, but on the pitch, you were just as psycho as every other goalkeeper.
Oh, yeah.
Weren't you?
Yeah, standard. Yeah, you've got.
Did I read somewhere or hear something that you were into your heavy metal as well? You're a bit of a crazy headbanger or not?
Yeah, liked heavy metal since forever. And when I played in the UK, my mate, he got friendly with Tool. I don't know if you've heard of a band called Tool, really famous band.
Yeah.
And he became mates with the band, and they're still friends to this day. And we used to see them when they came over, and we used to go to a lot of festivals over there. It was epic. It was you'd be on the side of the stage watching bands, top bands as well. So
ears bleeding, yeah. Brilliant.
Ears bleeding.
See, that all ties in nicely because Tool, Stinkfist, you guys wear gloves, all that kind of stuff all rolls in together, doesn't it? So
Danny knows. He knows the songs. He knows.
I know Tool, mate. Oh, yeah, I know quite a bit of their stuff. I'm a bit of a fan as well. Their older stuff, so, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, I don't know what the fuck you guys are talking about.
Because you only like really obscure shit that no one else knows.
And exactly, a bit of alternative country music. Don't mind a bit of David Bowie. Yeah, true. Lou Reed. That's going back though. That's
Lou Reed.
Yeah. I was thinking of a Leonard Cohen song for one, but I'm going to have to rewrite the lyrics for one intro about to Bird on the Wire. I think that'd be hilarious. I've got the song. And so now I'm just exactly. I've got a few because this week with the 33 goals, I actually came up with 3 possible lyric quotes. Well, one's a book, Dr. Zeus book, actually, where I was thinking this is highly appropriate. Yeah. But we'll get to that.
You're on my level now.
We'll get to that. All right. Without any further ado, I'm Robbie Thompson, Daniel McBreen, who just said the word oxymoron. Normally it's just moron when it comes to him. Jamie Young, our intellectual goalkeeper, who is doing a doctorate at the moment, a PhD. I think it's in, what do I say? In performance, isn't it? Sports
coaching. Sports coaching.
Coaching, okay.
Yes, sports coaching, yeah.
How to get the best, how to break small children, how to break their will.
and just picking apart managers as well, just looking at them, just shaking your head the whole time.
You've been doing that.
Oh, that's what we're here for that. Yeah, excellent. All right. Well, let's start with the 9-goal thriller because what better way to start with that? It could have been 5-5 when Jovanovic equalised in the 90-whatever minute, only to see it ruled out for offside. I would go through all the goal scorers, but there's barely any point. In fact, no, that's not fair because Chris Economides scored his first goal for Macarthur. Adamson provided a goal and an assist. Yeah, exactly. Well, he scored in the cup final for Melbourne Victory a few years ago. Then Ryan Kitto scored a fucking screamer into the top corner. That would be up there with your thunderfucked into the top corner Macca. Yep. And that's a bit of a heavy metal type phrase as well for Ryan Kitto's goal. Stefan Mork chipped in, and then miracles, wonders will never cease. Luke Bratton with a second half double. I mean, this is the ignominy for Adelaide, not only losing at home to a Macarthur side who hadn't scored in nearly 4 hours, who have lost Jed Drew, Valère Germain, Ariath Piol, have lost all their strikers. They conceded 5, 2 of them from Luke Bratton, who also hadn't scored in years and years and years. I'll go to Macca first before we get to Jamie. Analyse this. Can you? Is it possible?
Well, I'll be honest, and I'm looking back now to just see Adelaide's record in their last, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games. 1 win in 8. Yeah. And I must admit, after the 15th minute, I went, Adelaide aren't making the 6. I'd made my mind up. They're done. They've fallen. The wheels have fallen off. They're not getting results. They're down 2-0.
They could have gone second with a win.
Yeah, but hold the fucking phone. And then the fucking seesaw of emotions watching this game. I'm like, 15 minutes in, I'm like, well, they're fucked. They're gone. They're not going to make the 6. They're the team that's missing out on the 6. Then they come back and get the 3-2, and I'm like, no, they've found their mojo. Here they are. They're back. Adelaide's back. Fucking Kiddo scoring bombs. Mork scoring bombs. Yeah, they're flying now. And then fucking they go down again. I'm like, yeah, I'm not sure they're going to make the 6. I'm not sure what's happening with these guys now. And then they, as Adelaide always do in Adelaide, they don't die a slow death, do they? They make it exciting. They come back. They hit the post. They have a disallowed goal. They shoot over in the last minute with Ivanovic. And it's just entertainment. It has to be written in the Constitution that Adelaide play home games on a Friday night. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
That's it. Home games only on a Friday night because shit happens on Fridays in Adelaide. The crowd turns up, the mojo happens, whatever way it goes, there's always exciting football and we get to see something. Analyse it? How the fuck do you analyse it? You don't, because it was just a game of, well, you have a crack. No, you have a crack. Now you have a crack. You have a crack. And it's just, look, I said I don't want to go on the shit defensive side of things, so I won't. There was a couple of good bombs in there.
Come on. Okay, we'll save that for Jamie. Jamie can talk to us about that.
A couple of good bombs in there, but also Keely Adamson for Macarthur playing in a more advanced role. I thought he was unreal, exceptional, especially in the first half. He was everywhere, involved in everything, winning the ball, scoring goals, getting assists. I thought he was really, really good and didn't expect him to see him in that more advanced role because we haven't before. It was just a thoroughly entertaining game, wasn't it? I wouldn't want to be a supporter of either of those clubs watching them with any kind of confidence going forward in their team because, fuck me, they were both just so open.
Well, would you want to be a goalkeeper in either of those two teams? Jamie Young, what did you make of this one?
Yeah, as Danny said, you always see something happen at Adelaide. It's a sending off. There's controversy. You see goals as well, So in terms of the goalies, I think that's probably where Adelaide is struggling at the minute. They had the other young fella in for a bit and it kind of blew up. And then this game, Delinov, a guy of his age needs to show more consistency and, you can't expect to make a top 6 if you're not showing that at the back. So, yeah, to be a bit die on that one, I think that's probably where they're letting themselves down a wee bit. But Carl Viet seems to do it every year. He loses players every year, and he seems to churn out teams. And you're just like, how are you doing this sort of thing? And so I think they'll be there.
On this point then, because I was thinking Adelaide, midway through the season, we're all going, they've got 100 kids that are eligible for the young Socceroos that go off and win the Asian Cup. They're selling players. They're bringing them through. Everyone's saying, because last year they struggled, Adelaide, in that, little transition year. They were back with a vengeance, playing the kids again. The latest one, Harry Crawford, that we saw. Everyone's saying Carl's doing a great job. But they go through these moments of in form and suddenly out of form. And we're seeing it across the league. We've had teams that were out of form that we wrote off, that are Western Sydney in particular, who we'll get to, who are now looking fucking world beaters. And, 3 months ago we were saying, can this get any worse? What the fuck's going on at the club? The fans are staying away, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So how do you analyse what Carl is doing and what his team? Because let's not forget as well, he's also lost a couple of members of staff as well. Millsy went off to join the Malaysian FA. I mean, how do you judge what he's doing, considering he's almost been given a free pass just because of the kids that they're bringing through?
I think ever since he's been there, he's been in a situation where he's come through COVID and he's not got the wealth of depth of other clubs, and he's somehow managed to bring players in that are young and they produce top standard, and I think probably the thing that they struggle a little bit is with that depth, and they do blow up. But he seems to have unearthed another young player there. So I think someone like Eugene there is good for the staff. It's sad to see Millsy go because that stability around the club is key. But I think Carl's done, every year. I think he does a great job for what he's been given. It's exceptional effort.
I think it depends on what his KPIs are. What does the club want?
Yeah.
Does the club want to win? Well, then they need to give him some more money to go and get some more experienced players, because the old adage is old saying you don't win anything with kids, because kids are by nature so hot and cold because they're still learning their trade, they're still not the finished article, then they are going to have periods where they are just off and they'll try their hardest, they'll make mistakes. Yeah, senior players will go through those and be more balanced throughout the year. So what's their KPIs? Do they want him to win the league? Well, if they want him to win the league, they're not really giving him the tools to do that, are they? I think he's done an exceptional job in the time he's been in charge. If their KPIs is to keep bringing kids through and then selling them off to keep the club going along and ticking along, well, he's ticked that box by a mile. If it's to win trophies, well, if I was in Carl's position, I'd be saying, well, you're not giving me the tools really to do that. I need a few more senior players or experienced players, because when you look at, he's still got, the couple of Spaniards there, but they're fucking 37 and 38 now, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're not playing all the time. You need to start refreshing that squad with experienced players in there, and you can still bring the young ones through. Like, look at Crawford. His first game was after playing 90 minutes in NPL and then came off the bench to play, and he's played pretty much ever since, hasn't he? And he's done well. He scored a bomb last week. So there's another one coming through. But is someone like that at that age going to help you win a league? Probably not.
Nah.
He's not going to be consistent enough across the time. And in pressure moments, he's probably going to make wrong decisions and mistakes sometimes that it's going to cost you. So I think that's a big thing with is the club asking of Carl to say, is he a success or not? And I think with what he's had at his disposal, yes. For him to make finals, was it 4 years in a row or whatever it was, and then he missed one last year, that was a dip, and they're right back in the mix again now. Yeah, he's doing a good job. And,
Okay, devil's advocate question.
Yeah.
Devil's advocate question. What are MacArthur asking of Miles Sturjovski, because they sold half their fucking team in January? So they're not asking him to win the league. So who is asking their coach to win the league?
Sydney,
in this
Victory,
in this
Auckland,
13?
Western
City.
United now maybe, but I don't think they would have thought that at the
You
start.
think? At the start of the season?
At the start of the season, they would have said no. But
when you talk about KPIs, when you set out your season and say,
Sydney,
here it is.
I reckon the real ones at the start of this year, Sydney, you can tell they've gone out to get quality players and they've gone, we're going to win this league. Now, we'll talk about them in a bit.
win the league or win the ACL too?
Fucking win. They set out with that squad to win everything. They wanted to do the Mariners of last year. Win the league, win the championship, and win the ACL too. That's what they were setting out to do with the squad they assembled. Victory, I think they assembled a squad that they thought they could win the league, and Auckland obviously as well. I think we've all learned very quickly that
with the coach they thought could win them the league as well.
Experience to do it as well. So they were probably the three that were the standouts at the start of the year. The rest, I think, were can we make finals, that kind of stuff.
You don't think City?
Oh, sorry. I
part of that group?
apologise. Sorry, yes, City. I forgot about them. Sorry, Jamie. I know you love them dearly and they're close to your heart. City's the other one, I think. Yeah, and I forgot about them because they've had such a horror run with all their injuries. You sort of forgot that all those big name players were there because they've been out. But yeah, City were the other. I think they were the big four that went, we want to win it this year. The rest, I think it was like, all right, on a sliding scale to can we make finals or can we be top 3 or 4? Can we make finals? Can we not be at the bottom of the fucking league?
Okay. Word on MacArthur then. 5-4 winners in this. Jamie, for a team that won the cup at the start of the season, won their first game over Perth 6-1, looked like, that Miles Sturjovski had turned around after that difficult season last year when he took over the reins. They are now what? I think it's 4 points. No, not even. Out of the... I'll grab the standings.
They've got to be
Should have
close.
prepared that perhaps a little bit earlier. But they'd lost a lot of games in a row. And now they are 5 points outside the 6, but 2 points behind Sydney. And they're one of the teams that have played 21 games as opposed to most who have played 20 and Brisbane, who've only played 19. Can Macarthur lift themselves enough to make finals, Jamie, do you think?
That is a tough one, isn't it? 5 games to go.
Yeah.
5-point deficit. Not impossible, but again, they've lost a lot of their players in January. It would be tough, I think, for them to get there. But I think Miller's done, again, unbelievable to come into a club there with, I don't know what their strategy is. I think they do pay decent wages down there, but in terms of an organisation, the branding, the marketing, their identity, it seems like, I don't know what that is, to be honest. So I think he's done really well to sort of put a stamp on the footballing pitch, but I think they're happy to have sold these players. I don't think are they looking to win? Wow, they won the cup. They do pay money out, but is there a real strategy behind it, like a City or a Sydney? I don't think it's probably there at the same level. So they'll be in
ACL 2 next year as well.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to.
Well, if you have a look at them, you got to give it to them. They brought Valère-Germain. They've Millet's brought in a foreign coach that he knows from overseas, who's experienced. They brought in Yakulis back from overseas. They brought in Aslanigic. They're not afraid to go and get players. They've gone now and tried to replace them again with a centre-back and another attacking player. So you can't say that they haven't gone out to try and get players. And I think you'd be doing them a disservice to say they weren't trying to assemble a squad that was looking to be competitive near the top end. Whether or not it's a strong enough squad to win, I don't know. I think they were probably not far off being that competitive top edge before they sold their players. But if you're going to turn around and get whatever they got, 1 point, whatever it was for Piol after playing fucking 5 to 8 games, whatever it was, they'd be crazy to turn that down. Now, he's got an MLS and he's playing there. Valère-Germain, let's be honest, his contract was coming up. They were going to get some money for him and he was going to get a payday in Japan. For all parties there, again, they'd be crazy to not do that. Otherwise, he walks away for free at the end of the year. With Piol gone, Jed Drew's gone. They made money off him. They've brought, played him consistently, and now he's gone. That's football, and that's what happened. And at the end of it, these owners are putting their money on the line. And if they can see that in one transfer window we can make $2 million in transfer fees in the Australian market, fucking good on them. And it's like we said, they've gone and got 2 foreign players to come in. It's not like they've just gone, fuck it, play the kids, Millet. So you can't say that they aren't trying to do that. Whether they've got the squad now to push on into the finals, I don't know. But look at their next 3 games: the Jets, Raw, and Central Coast. Potentially, there's 9 points if they get it right. Robbie, I know you just laughed.
Say 7. 7 points.
Yeah, but they will look at that and go, well, there's 3 teams below us in the league, that we think we should be able to beat. So there's 9 points. And then their last 2 games of victory in Western Sydney, so it becomes a lot more difficult there. But if you're going to make finals, you've got to beat these teams anyway. Don't write them off. It's going to be difficult,
any team, aren't they?
But they're still there. I'm not writing them off yet.
Well, I think they were just about but I think they were just about written off, honestly, before this one. This has given them hope.
It has.
I mean, they hadn't won since the 1-0 win over City.
Yeah. I agree.
2 months ago before this. Yeah. So, but where there's life, there's hope. That's far too long to spend on the opening match, gentlemen.
Oh, it's fucking 9 goals.
Let's
what a game.
It's not a 5-game weekend, this one. It was a 6-game weekend. We're going to be here till Tuesday morning. All right, Western Sydney versus Melbourne Victory.
Oh, this is a good one. There's so much to talk about.
Exactly. It's true. So, Melbourne Victory, 2-0 up inside 42 minutes. Looked like perhaps if they'd held on until halftime, this would have been a different story. I'm not sure. Macca, we were on the call for this one. Kraev pulled one back just before halftime. Mm-hmm. And then Brandon Borello, Milanovic, Antonsen put the finishing touches all in the last 15 minutes. It was off the bench that Western Sydney really ran away with it. So that shows, well, that's a point to talk about with Stadger's side, that he's got a squad that are suddenly all pulling in the same direction. They're on a great run. But, and this is a big but, Jamie, they had 2 cleared off the line. It could have been 4-1 quite reasonably with an hour played to Melbourne Victory. What are Victory doing that they just can't take their chances? I mean, they've brought in Mitch Langerak. That was meant to be the missing piece to this puzzle, even though Jack Duncan had been outstanding
Did well
in the first half of the season. But this was meant to be the calming influence, the confidence, the thing that brought the whole thing together. And the inconsistency is still there. And this was another desperate example of that.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough, isn't it? They know how to assemble a squad. They can't quite, goals change games and put them away. I think PK was a bit of a loss to them, to be honest. That intensity, what that does to a player, you're never in that comfort zone. I don't know Arthur, but I think he's a good coach. But is he a strong motivator? And that coach element that brings players out of their comfort zone on a daily basis. That can be the difference between, I'm going to definitely make sure this ball goes to the back of the net or it gets cleared off the line. I don't know. It's hard to call from afar. But, if you don't take your chances, then a team like Western Sydney will, have opportunities because they do have, good quality attacking players and they do have depth to bring off the bench as well. So Victory, I think PK is a bit of a loss to them personally.
Well, we know PK's a driver of it, but a couple of weeks ago I sent through some stats when I was doing the tactician to the people I was doing it with there. At that point, which Melbourne Victory I think had created the most big chances in the league throughout the season, and they'd missed the most big chances. So they're at the top end of creating them and at the top end of missing them as well. So there's a huge problem. I think this game, what did I say to you at halftime, Robbie? Be honest. What did I say?
Western Sydney are going to win this one.
Yeah, I said 3-2 or 4-2, didn't I? I said you could just feel it. And this, to me, was a tale of 2 coaches getting their substitutions right and wrong. Stadge got it right. He held back Milanovic from last week, even though he was their top goal scorer. He kept him on the bench because he was on the bench last week from being suspended.
The week before that.
He was suspended, so he was on the bench, came back, didn't come straight back into the team. But everyone was talking about Nishan Velupillay and Daniel Arzani, how they get called up for the Socceroos. They've got no outcome. Well, credit to Nishan Velupillay, got himself a goal. But Daniel Arzani, I thought, was fucking exceptional. For me, he was the best player on the park in the first half. He was dangerous. He looked like he was causing problems all the time. He wasn't just doing what a lot of people say, and I've been very, very critical of him in this as well, doing his little tricks for no reason. Everything was with a purpose. The goal that he set up, was it for Piscopo?
For Piscopo,
where we can talk about the defensive side of things where Jack Clisby dropped off, but he realised I'm squaring up Creo here. Creo's body's all fucked, and he just dipped his shoulder, went in behind him, and he played it straight away, and he put it across the box. He was doing stuff like that all the time. And to take him off at the 60th minute, I guarantee you Western Sydney went, thank fuck, because he was causing them all kinds of problems. He had them on the back foot. He was combining with players. He was coming in on his left. He was going out on his right. And he actually, in that game, answered all the critics. Okay, 45 minutes or 60 minutes doesn't answer the critics. You need to do it consistently. But in that game, Daniel Arzani stepped up and gave the output that he needed and got them on the front foot. And I think that was a poor decision from Arthur Lillis to take him off. I still think he had stuff in the tank to keep them going. Flip the other side, for Alex Gersbach to come on was fantastic when he came on. Got forward, put balls in the box, got an assist, I think, or created a goal. Antonsen was fantastic when he came on. Milanovic was unreal, getting at the ball and running people. So the substitutions and the time they were done completely flipped the game and changed the game. And you're right. Victory probably could have been 3-1 or 4-1 up in the early moments of the second half, but they weren't. And it's a story of their season where they don't kill teams off and they don't finish well. And you just knew that Western Sydney were going to come running over the top. And the atmosphere was fantastic, but got to give it to both sets of fans as well. They created a great atmosphere that as the game went on, it was unreal. And Western Sydney looked good. And from all of a sudden, like you say, a little while back, we're all like, oh, they look like they're all over the place. Is Macca playing? Is Macca not playing? No one's talking about that now. They're just going, oh, they're doing all right, aren't they? They've got some good results under their belt and they're performing well. They still look a bit shady at the back at times, but you know they're going to score goals going forward.
Yeah. Who's at the back? They've got the young fella from the MPL, and
by the
who's
way,
the other guy?
Panazopoulos.
Yeah,
he was fucking
so he's
immense.
The kid from Melbourne. He was at Oakley.
That, Jamie. Fuck me dead. He was
true.
unreal. He bullied, and not many people do this. I was watching him in back play, and he'd be walking along with Bruno, and he'd just pull as Bruno would go to walk off, he'd pull his shirt and pull him back. Then Bruno would sort of stop. Then he'd fucking put his shoulder in his back and sort of just bump him. You know, those things that just annoy the shit out of a striker. You know, when the referee and the assistants were watching the ball as it was just about to be played, he was pulling their shirt then. So Bruno would be pulled back on the floor and he'd be looking at the refs going, oi, and no one had noticed it because they were all watching the other thing. Or he'd go, right, bang him in the back just as he was about to take off, and he'd be off balance, and then he'd step in front of him. He did all the dirty fucking grubby shit that centre-backs have been doing for years. He put it all into that game and he dominated. Not only that, his distribution, those diagonal balls to the other side.
Yeah.
And occasionally once he just ran through and he fucking dinked that ball into Anderson or whoever it was. And you were like, what the fuck? He's got everything in his game, this young fella. He was unreal.
His goal kicks are unbelievable as well. Like a centre-half taking a goal kick can actually smack it from 10 yards from the 18-yard box, and you're like, oh, holy shit, this, you can't be too tight because he'll go and do that.
Yeah.
And not a bad find from the NPL. They've done well there.
Yeah, very good.
But if Lawrence can sort of, dominate a little bit more, then I think they're coming good at the right time. That you always get that one team, don't you, that comes good at the right time. They could be that one.
And Lawrence has signed a new 2.5-year deal as well.
Has he?
He made an amazing save, didn't he, in the first half?
His left. Now, was it one in the second half, wasn't it? Off Mashash.
Was it second half, was it? Yeah.
When Mashash.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he didn't get called up to the Socceroos. That was a bit of a surprise to me. I don't know if he's getting to that age or what's happened there, but
he was called up recently, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was up in one of the last camps, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think so. So they've brought in Izzo and Glover. Glover back. Paul Izzo, who was with Popper, obviously, at Victory. Patrick Beach has been brought in as a train-on player.
Yeah, that
as
must
well.
want to have a look at him. Yeah.
So that's what they did with Joe Gauci, wasn't it? A couple of years ago, I think, when Arnie was still. They brought in.
I think it's good to bring a young one in to have a look at how it is, and if he's keeping senior goalkeepers out of their spot, he must be good.
I think really I think they just put him in. That was it.
Was there no competition for places? Is that what we're saying? No. Well,
Unless
we've got to
he
have.
fell off
Okay, no, cat's out of the bag. We've got to have it. That's enough for Western Sydney, Melbourne Victory. So
get controversial.
there was, absolutely. The City didn't play, so this is the only opportunity we're going to get to chat about City and what's happened this season. And since you're here, Jamie, so you retired officially from professional football. You're still playing semi-pro with Dandenong Thunder down in the Victorian MPL. I guess after that remarkable season when Western United won the league. I mean, I remember calling some of those saves, and not to piss in your pocket because we don't fucking do that here on A-League Off Air, but there was some fucking unbelievable saves that season, a big part in why Western United won the league. You head over to City, you have a good season with them in what was a difficult year with Aurelio up and down and some moments that were more testing than others perhaps over the season. And then this year they've just made the blanket decision. We're going with Patrick Beach. It was a rocky start for him, as it was for, new goalkeepers that were jumping in. Perech, Cullen, Pavlicic at the Mariners. We saw Vidakovic at Western Sydney struggle. Patrick Beach as well. We saw Olawayemi at Wellington Phoenix. It hasn't been a great year for goalkeepers. 33 goals conceded in the last round. But how did you, I guess, after, coming through a period where you were at the peak of your powers to suddenly sitting on the bench, how did you live with all this?
Oh, Yeah, the fortunate thing for me was, being 39, it's not like you're 30 and you're trying to build a career still, or you're still very much, have space in your career to play. I was 39. I went, just do another year, I'll complete my PhD. But, cities, they're constrained just like every other club, and the market is so good, as Danny said, to sell young players. It's probably harder being at City in some respects, because you're expected to win the league, but you're wanting to sell players, and you're putting young players in that wouldn't have got a look in at training 5 years ago. They wouldn't have even been training with the first team, and that's not just happening for one or two players. You're seeing at every club 5-6 players. You're like, you wouldn't even see you at training, let alone a game. And now all of a sudden we're celebrating the virtues of 18-year-olds at scale. It's as one of my old teammates said to me, it's madness. That's where the league is, because they've got to balance their books, because I think, what is it, 2.6 or 3.2 down to 500, especially in a market that's hot for young players. They've got to do that. So,
Well, no one can sign anyone, can they, really? I mean, no one can really. We see Sydney bring in big players. We've had that discussion. We won't have it again. But it is very hard to bring in experienced players at the moment. So clubs have to play their kids, and probably it's going to be like this next season as well.
Yeah, and I think where this really affects people, I mean, for me, like, I made that decision to retire, but you're going to, I think, between 28 to 33-year-old players who are not going to get paid the money that they deserve, that the market used to give them. So, for me to call it quits wasn't the worst thing in the world. Probably not the way I would have liked in some respect, but for a lot of other players, it's going to be worse, I think. And you're going to see a lot more young players getting opportunities that you probably wouldn't have seen in, like, Danny's era, when Danny played at Central Coast. Imagine the young players getting in there. You wouldn't have seen many young players at all. When I was at the Raw, I think we had McLaren and Borrello at very best. Apart from that, you were getting a lot of experience. When we went up with Western, I think average age was about 28. It's just the way the league has evolved. And I think it's good to have some young players, but when your central sort of strategy is to go through young players, then you dilute the quality of the league. That's me being honest.
I'll be honest with you, mate. That's what I've heard. When you talk to senior players across the league, and I'm talking 28 plus, who have been, probably in that era where they had to really fight for their spot to get in. That's a common theme that you hear, is that, you weren't in the old squads. You might have 2 or 3, youngsters in there, and they've really deserved it. They were the cream of the crop, and now you're seeing, as you say, 5, 6, 7, 8 because of the finances. And you're right, there are going to be, deficiencies in areas. Like, if we could sit around and talk, I could sit here and talk fucking forever, and Robbie won't let me, about the defensive frailties that I see, across the league, really. But errors that young guys make. But that's what you expect with young ones. And you're right. I think we build up a bit more of a tolerance with it now, because we accept where it is. Okay, we know that this is the way the league is, and you're going to have those young players in there. Do we really think that all of them really should be in those squads? Probably not. But I will also say that a lot of the young players are stepping up, and we're seeing a lot of young talent come through. So it's a double-edged sword. They've got to get their opportunities, but they really have to earn those opportunities.
But this is the whole point, and I think this is what we were chatting with Jamie about his PhD before as well, is that what you demand of these young kids in this current environment, and the way we look to nurture young talent and bring them through, is not only very different to how it was 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago, but also the economic environment of the league at the moment is you just have to accept it. Don't we just have to say at the moment, look, young goalkeepers in their first season are going to make mistakes. We're asking a lot of these players to play out from the back. There are going to be mistakes. Hayne Eames the other day, no one's obviously gonna rip Hayne Eames a new one either, because he's a 16-year-old or 17 now who's been playing in the middle of the park for a Mariners side that don't have options. So what's your option apart from saying you can't be demanding, Jamie? And I know that's one of your things, is that you have to reach a certain level. If you don't reach non-negotiables, then you fall by the wayside. And that's how elite football works all around the world. But here, do we have to accept that the league is not at that point at the moment?
Yeah, possibly.
Or can you accept that or not? You shouldn't accept that still.
I think, clubs will behave in a way that is in reaction to the environment they're in. So, what's the consequence to failing in this league? Where is the consequence for Perth and Brisbane right now? Whereas if you're Southampton, my old teammate Russell Martin couldn't get results for Southampton, he got the sack, and they're going to get relegated, and that's going to cost them money, and that's going to cost people jobs. In the A-League, if you suffer and you don't get results, no one's going to have protests at the ground like Man United or media hunts or Roy Keane's or Gary Neville's. It's not even being talked about.
Well, that's you're talking about the environment.
There's no recourse.
Yeah, that's the environment we're in here, where we have a closed shop, and we could go off on massive tangents here, but that's where we are. We have a very small media that is interested. That's
why we can see a lot of young goalies playing, because they're allowed to play in an environment.
And they can grow and learn in that environment.
That's right.
Where they're not going to be, you're out. You make a mistake, you're gone, which is what you would have come through, yeah? You cost the game.
Even at the Raw.
Fucking see you later.
Even at the Raw with, myself and Michael Theo were competing. I think, I kept 5 clean sheets in a row for the Raw in the Champions League, and I couldn't get into the A-League team because we were playing alternating between Champions League and the A-League. It was only through injury, I think he sustained against Western Sydney, that I got in, but it was that difficult. And that was probably after 3 years of competing with him at the time. But now you're getting, fellas getting the opportunity. It's the next 5-10 years will be interesting.
There are pros and cons,
how,
aren't there?
Yeah. I mean, the next 5-10 years, we'll see how that impacts the national team. And you see the under-20s now. That was a pretty good effort to win that tournament. But all their players were playing. They're playing senior football. Yeah. And if you're not playing games, then maybe you don't get Janovic's and, scoring, the other Adelaide players scored the centre half has scored that great goal as well. So it just depends how you look at things. I think there doesn't need to be a balance, but that's just where it is. Like a lumpet.
Needs to be a little bit of balance on the terraces as well. And Jamie, you know that I have a great affection for French football. Well, this morning, Montpellier versus Saint-Etienne. It was 18th versus 17th, both sides in the relegation zone. And the match abandoned when the Montpellier home fans set fire to the stadium in protest.
There's a bit of balance there, isn't there?
Having already thrown flares and...
Tell me the positives that came out of that one, Robbie.
Exactly. I'm just saying that this is that pressure cooker environment. Obviously, that's just negative for the club, for Montpellier.
Speaking of crowds, and we know for a lot of years we've had active support in the A-League, and we've seen what's happened to those guys for over-policing and crackdowns and that. We've now got one of our rival codes who are now spruiking, this new idea of active support. Come and join our active support. Let's see how the cops fucking manage them guys.
What's that going to be? Like the AFL fans with the pom-poms and all that, fucking get them out of the retirement home and get them to wave shit?
I'm pretty sure it's Parramatta, I think. They're spruiking this new idea at CommBank Stadium to come and have active support and get in there and have this active support area. I want them to be treated the same way that the A-League supporters of active support have been treated, and let's see how they fucking like it. Come on, let's move to the next game, because I'll go off on another tangent.
All right, fair call as well, mind you. And I'll just I think I may have mentioned it before, but AFL and NRL have been copying football in the way they do things for decades now. Once the thing all took off, sort of when the Premier League took off in the 90s, AFL were, when I was at PSG, we had every 2 years the AFL sent people over to spend time to see how the marketing was going at PSG, what their shirt design, partnerships with Jordan, this and this, what's your pre-game entertainment like, what's all this sort of stuff around, how do you deal with fans, sponsors, all this sort of thing. They've been, they've been following it, whereas we, perhaps in football in this country, think we know everything, don't necessarily have a centralised way of working forward. Perhaps that's not the case. Let's not go there. Let's talk about the football.
Hang on.
And what happened
Before we
on the
leave Western
pitch.
Sydney, last thing, great tifo. Well done, guys. Right, let's go.
Yes, that was good, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Life or death? Are we allowed to say that, Macca?
Yeah.
You didn't like the Montpellier fans setting fire to the stadium.
Well, they won, so they didn't have to set fire to the stadium.
Exactly. Okay, next up was Perth 1, Brisbane 3. So Brisbane getting a bit of revenge for their loss earlier this season against Perth. Brisbane in the Battle of the Spoon are off the bottom. There was a great goal, a first goal in the A-League for Luke Amos in the 7th minute, a real fucking thunderfucked into the top corner as well. Another one of those. It was Ryan Kitto-esque from Luke Amos. Bet he never thought he'd hear those words. And then Asuma Abubakar got his first goal for Brisbane. And then Sam Klein got his first goals as well. So fair play for the double. And Brisbane, look, we've been harsh on Brisbane, as I think rightly so. Jamie, I'd be curious as your take on Brisbane as a former Raw player as well. And feel free to have a go at Perth, because I forgot Perth were even fucking here. They've scored 14 goals this season in 21 games.
Seriously?
And
wow.
I was looking, seriously, these are some seriously damning stats. And the last time they won, this is just to set the scene, they beat Auckland, remember? Auckland travelled, the first time they travelled to Perth. They won 1-0 against the run of play, massive upset. Since then, and this is the most perhaps damning thing about Perth, 8 without a win. Tas Mordekudis, Yuta Mizau, Takuya Akamoto, Luke Amos, Lockie Wales and Patrick Wood have all joined. That's fucking 6 new players. Half their first team have come in and they haven't won now in 8, and they've just lost, maybe won the wooden spoon with another home defeat to Brisbane. It's very fucking average from Perth this season.
I mean, it's interesting. So I thought when Driller was appointed as their manager, I thought, this will be good with the high press and he's gone away into Europe, around the world, and that sort of coaching philosophy he'll be able to implement there. But it's obviously not worked there. And again, it sounds. I'm going to look at the back of the pitch. Some of the goals they've conceded have been, well. As a goalkeeper, you'd be disappointed. And Ollie Sail, when he went there, obviously was one of the best in the league coming from Wellington. I thought he was a great grab for them, but he's not shown his quality since he's been there for whatever reason. If that's one thing I've noticed is in the A-League as a player, you can get bogged down day in, day out. And, again, if there's no consequence, but also if you know you're going to play every week, and you're not performing to a level, and you're on a decent wage. I don't know why. I know Ollie is an exceptional player, but he's not shown it in consistency. He should be one of their best players every week.
Since he went there, he hasn't shown it for whatever reason. But exactly,
we don't know. Yeah.
But at the start of the year, Jamie, I heard at the start of the year they wanted to try and move him on, and that there were no offers that suited him because, as you know, he's on good coin out west. And then they dropped him at the start of sort of after about 6 or 8 games or whatever it was this season. He'd made a couple of blunders. I think that was to try and say, look, you're not going to play, better for you if you head somewhere else. And I don't know whether he looked into it. No one came in. No one could offer him what he wanted. And so once it was acknowledged by everyone that, okay, he's staying, well then, who was it? Cam Cook? Cam Cook was back out. and in comes Ollie back in because they're going to, they're paying him. He's there. He's the better keeper, even if they wanted him to move on. So now he's back in the side, and there's clearly no competition.
Yeah, and especially in that goalkeeping position, you do need to be on the edge. You do need to have competition because as a player, if you're not producing, that person can take a spot. So maybe he knows that's it. I'm going to play irrespective of if I do well. If I don't, that could be it. But yeah, it's a funny one. Perth, they all up there, they all expect themselves to be up in the table, and this year's been well and truly far and away. I can't remember Perth doing well since Popper, to be honest.
Well, it's a wooden spoon last year, wasn't it? They had Ruben, then Stadge. I mean, and now's Driller. So I don't think it's only the coaches. Ruben hasn't kicked on, but Stadge has come good. Driller is struggling. So, it's becoming a graveyard for coaches and goalkeepers alike.
You said it though, Robbie. We go back, I reckon, about 6 weeks ago, and when we've rightly been smashing Brisbane, and we said we can't see any progress. What's changing in that? They're doing the same thing. They look all right in midfield. They sort of move the ball around. They don't create any chances really up front or take them, and they concede shit goals. Then we said, but we can sort of see a progression in Perth. We can see they were fucking so awful at the start. Now we can start to see them playing a game of football. And to be fair, this game was a game that I was driving home with, so I had it on, sort of listening to it. And when I got home, I tried to go back and watch bits through again. So I'm finding it difficult to sit here and critique the strategy. But they seem to be doing well at the start. They scored an absolute bomb, obviously, from Amos. But when like you said, you look through that team, Ollie Sale, he can be either a 9 out of 10 or a 3 out of 10. There is no fucking middle. He'll pull saves out of his arse top corner, and then he'll let one through his legs like Ames scored against him. Then you've got, at the back now, you've got 2 Japanese players. Tommy Murchula, Murtakutis, who's been, I think, been doing okay since he came in. Pennington, I like him. He's been well. You got Pierman, who's coming through, and Amos, who's scored a great goal. Wales, Taggart, and Miliusnic. So there's experience there. Okay?
Yeah.
What are they? How are they performing so poorly? You're right. They should now be.
Is there winners?
They should be starting to see. We should be seeing them now picking up points here, a win here, a draw there, a couple of losses maybe, another draw, a win. But they're not. They're not getting any wins at all. Like what? How are they not now starting to put something together, and look like a cohesive unit? And I think we have been, because they started so poorly. And we smashed them for the first couple of weeks. We sort of eased off them and went, oh, yeah, okay, we know they're shit.
Exactly.
And we forgot them. Like, you're right. They've gone out and made the effort to go and get the players. Yeah. They've got them, and they're still not performing. They're still not getting any results. When you look on the other side of it, Brisbane, Abubakar, I think he's been a good signing. Came without match fitness, and already you can see he's got that sharpness. I even saw someone on the weekend tweet, great to see how he's adjusted his game. He's not diving anymore. He's trying to ride tackles. But that's, we mentioned to talk about this off air, don't we, quite often, Robbie, about players come here from overseas leagues, they get a nudge, they fall down, they look at the ref and go, why wasn't that a foul? It's like, well, welcome to Australia, mate. You're not going to get easy fouls like that. But he's adjusted his game in that respect. Sam Klein, he's been exceptional this past month. I think he's been really, really good in midfield for them. J. O'Shea gets all the plaudits because he gets on the ball and moves it around. He gets heaps of touches, and he's always high on the Paramount Plus because he's always on the ball. Sam Klein has been a really, really good find, and he's doing really, really well. And it was good to see him get a couple of goals because his performances have been really exceptional in my eyes. And you got to say, with them now, you're looking at them, they're not going to come last, Brisbane now. They've got a couple of games in hand. I can see them winning a couple of games.
Did they put Perth to the sword? That's the question.
No, they only did that to Sydney, all right? So if you put Sydney to the sword, you get about 3 transfer windows to sort out the rest of your team so you can put the other teams to the sword.
That's a little in-joke, Jamie, about Ruben Bekovic's press conferences.
Yeah.
Where
what was he talking about? I need a few windows.
Well,
exactly. He's been deflecting pretty badly so far this season.
they're all right because they put Sydney
It's-
to the sword about 6 weeks ago. So that's
He's
not-
actually said so many times that he needs 3 transfer windows, that he shouldn't start winning because he's only had 2.
Yeah, he needs 27. He needs 27 windows the amount of times he said it. But I think I
used
even
to
said
play
to
for
him
them.
personally, I said, stop fucking saying transfer windows. You've fucking signed 17 players in the last 2 windows yourself. That's nearly the entire squad. So that doesn't fly. But look, in the end, I think they deserve their win.
That's
And
it.
they're not gonna come
Jamie,
last.
what were you going to say about Brisbane?
I mean, I used to play for them. Obviously, I'm a Brisbane lad as well, and you know how good that club can be. It could be a top 3 club in the country, a one-team state, if they were run properly, if they had good relationships with their community, if they had an identity, strategy with their academy, good people working. But the owners are shit, to be honest. And
We know that.
it's just.
Do they have an academy?
No, they've got a youth team.
I thought Dodsley was there.
Yeah, they've got a youth team, but no academy.
I remember when I first came to that club, that they weren't a great club in terms of the organisation, but the people that were there were pretty good. Johnny Aloisi was, did a lot of good things for that club, and just slowly, I think, as soon as COVID hit, they just fell off a cliff, got rid of Robbie, and then that club has just sort of bounced from one alley to the next, and it's just been painful to watch, to be honest. It does not look like the Brisbane that I remember playing for at all, and you can just see the standards, and you're just like, I kind of forget I played for them.
Yeah, you're not the first. Yeah, you're not the first ex-Brisbane player to tell us that. Yeah, that it's not the club that they don't really feel a kinship with the club anymore because it's so changed since they left.
It's
Okay.
it's another one's a madness.
Exactly. But given how Western United are playing, Jamie, you probably don't recognise you played for them either with all your 1-0s that you got back in the day. Now they're fucking banging 6 past Newcastle. Anyway. Before we get to there, it's time to shatter stat, courtesy of Andy Howe, our official A-League statistician. Now, obviously, we've heard all about the 33 goals. The beauty of Andy Howe's stats is that he starts there with the low-hanging fruit, and then instead of just handing it out, he keeps climbing the tree till he gets to the elusive golden apple right at the top. So, Andy Howe with the shatter stat for this week. 33 goals is the most goals scored in an A-League men's round, smashing the previous record of 30 in round 26 last season. Individual highlights and lowlights over the weekend. The Raw's Sam Klein scoring his first 2 A-League goals on the day of his 21st birthday. Noah James conceding 6 in his 7th appearance after letting in just 3 in his first 6 for Newcastle. At 5.5 goals per game, the average number of goals over the weekend was also the highest ever for an A-League men's round. In the NSL era, the most goals scored in a round was 45. That was round 7 in 1985. However, this was a North-South conference and there were 12 games, 24 teams, back in the halcyon days of North-South conference football, soccer, from Australia.
From down under.
And then the highest scoring NSL round in terms of average goals was 5.9. That was 41 goals in 7 games in the last round of the 2000-2001 season. On that weekend, eventual grand finalists Wollongong and South Melbourne each scored 6, as did the Melbourne Knights. The Knights' opponent that day was Newcastle United.
5-2 or something.
Here
I
we
think
go,
I played.
Macca. Are you getting nervous?
Yeah, we got pumped. We got battered. 6-2 or 5-2
So you
or
were
something.
pumped.
6-3.
Exactly, 6-2.
Yeah.
And on that day, who were the goal scorers for Newcastle?
Did I get
on
one?
that day?
Did I get one?
Daniel McBreen, a very young Daniel McBreen, and a veteran by the name of Andy Harper.
Yes.
Andy Harper.
Me and
Long
Harper.
range bomb, was it?
It was a long-range bomb. It was a 101st and final NSL goal for Andy Harper that day. So it was a historic moment. Incidentally, The final scorer over this season's record-breaking weekend was Costa Barbarouses, who matched Andy Harper's record of 101 National League goals. He becomes the 22nd player to score over 100 goals in Australia's top tier.
Nice.
So there you go.
What a little bookend.
Thank you, Andy Howe. Well done with the shatter stat, which has been effectively shut out. Now we head to the next game, Auckland versus the Mariners. Macca, we'll start with you on this one because we know that you're Mariners through and through. My only note from this game, because I was on the move all day yesterday, running around. I did keep watching on my phone. All I can recognise out of this game is that the A-League's biggest calf muscles scored their first goal. Vitor Feijão was on the score sheet. And now I can't just say that that's been his only contribution to the A-League, the size of those calves, because now he's on the score sheet and taking a point away from Auckland. Is this, and I'll bring it back to the point I've been making in recent weeks, is this excellent Mariners, a bit of life, or poor Auckland? That's the big question.
All right. Well, this is obviously the game that I was on before I was calling the Newcastle game, so I was watching while working. So again, my analysis is, I can't really say I can go in depth at all. What I will say is that, was it 2 weeks ago that everyone was already starting to say that Auckland have got the premiership? Yeah, they've got the Premier's plate. May as well just give it to them now. Well, 3 draws in a row. And now Western United 4 points behind. There's a bit of squeaky bum time maybe over in New Zealand where they're dropping points and thinking, fuck, actually, we're getting close to that end and making history of the first team to come in and win the Premier's plate and all that stuff. I don't know.
The nervous 90s.
Yeah, they still look good. Like, don't get me wrong, Guillermo Mai looks great. But they wouldn't have dropped those points earlier in the season. They're conceding goals like they didn't concede goals. They had 9 clean sheets in about their first 6 games. They fucking were that good. They're now conceding goals. What's that? 6 goals, 2 against the Mariners, 4 against, was it Adelaide? Who did they concede against? 4 against?
Yeah. Yeah, the 4-4 with Adelaide at home as well.
A draw against the Jets as well. I don't know. I'm just credit to the Mariners for sticking in and coming back, but I'm looking through the draw, the last game of the season, Western United at home against Auckland, and I'm looking at that game and thinking, fuck me, that could be huge. Okay. That could be the Premier's Plate decider. Yeah. I know we've got a few games between here and now, but the way Western United are playing and the confidence they have going forward in their players, and the way Auckland are now stuttering a little bit, that could end up being the biggest game of the season right there and then out at Ironbark Fields.
Yeah, it's interesting, Auckland. I think they've probably got a lot of results, haven't they? Because they're a new team, they're riding the wave and playing at their ground as well. I think they're going to get a lot of results there, but they probably have stuttered a little bit. And then I got to be honest with Western United. I actually had them bottom 3 just purely because I didn't think they had the cattle. And I think what John has done is, I think he's probably been the best coach of the league. What he's actually produced, I don't think anybody had them in the situation that they are now. And they're playing some really good football as well. The one advantage he probably has had over other teams is that he's been playing these youngsters a year longer than other teams. He's had to play this young team since last season, so they're all playing together. And again, they're going to get results out of that field as well because it's a bit windy, it's a bit unique out there, and other teams won't be used to that. So what he's done has been quite incredible, and they are playing more attacking football since Foxy has left for the Socceroos. So I think if anyone knows Foxy knows that he's the most detailed defensive coach you'll ever have. He's got a PhD in defense, but of course, when you're focusing a lot on defense, then you don't always emphasize your attack. So, I think they're there to stay. I don't think they're going to fall away, quite like Adelaide have. and it'll be interesting to see where they finish up.
Okay, so obviously neither of you two watched fucking Auckland versus the Mariners.
No.
So
I watched the highlights.
No.
I haven't been there. I know it's a tough place to go. There's a bit of wind, and it's what Mariners have done in the last few years have been just extraordinary. It's like the budget they have. They've obviously recruited so well, and it's hard to replace not just 5 or 6 players, but 6 of the best players in the league every year. How do you keep doing that? And they've obviously got a very good coach in Mark Jackson, but they're probably like Vuka. Vuka could have played another year, and he was the best keeper in the league last year for me. He was unbelievable for them. Then you lose one of your best centre-halves to Auckland. It's just impossible to keep replacing
Dan
that.
Hall was back, by the way.
Yeah,
this
Dan
weekend.
Hall was back because Pineacker was out suspended as well. So I wonder if he came back. Maybe
a bit too early.
a little bit early. Maybe
he had a broken bone in his foot, didn't he, or in his ankle?
He broke something. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he was back, which is good for them coming into the finals, coming towards the end of the finals. Yeah. What was I going to say? The only thing I will say, because I'll be honest, as I said, I was working and I did go back and watch the goals. Defending crosses, fucking hell, didn't they go to sleep? De Vries at that back post for Feijiao's header.
Yes.
He could have, I don't know, he could have done anything except for what he did. He just went to step away and flick it away with him, and Feijiao couldn't believe his eyes and went, "Thank you, I'll just dip in there." And again, he puts in a good cross.
It still wasn't as bad as Hamzaoui for Perth at the start of the season.
He was running off to get a fucking beer in the shed.
What was that, Tim Payne?
He heard someone say my shout and he fucking ran off. Oh, yeah, I'm on that one. Fuck, not missing out on a shout. He was almost as tight as me, that one.
Yeah, but it wasn't far off.
Yeah.
But it wasn't far off from Mr. De Vries.
Yeah, it was pretty shit defending from set pieces from both teams. But yeah, look.
I thought you weren't going to say that today, Macca.
Well, I had to because I
glad to see you've
hadn't seen enough
reason.
of the game. So,
all right, let's move on. Let's move on. Newcastle versus Western United. So this one we can now talk. And Jamie, we have been singing the praises of Western United the last few weeks because I can't even begin to think the transition from this side that we all thought was going to struggle, that was lacking consistency at the start of the season as well, to how they've become this side that are basically like last season's Mariners. I reckon they've got young players. They're scoring freely. They're riding a wave. I mean, that's the analogy that springs to mind, because especially when you see, and I think the point you just made is exactly right insofar as they've had an extra year with these young players, and now they are playing young players, but their young players have at least a little bit of A-League experience in their shorts, and that's making the difference at the moment.
100%. I think one thing you get with John is he's a very structured coach. He's very clear with how he wants his teams to play, and you can see that since I was there, and that's sort of stayed the same in terms of their team structure. So you know how they're going to play. I'm going to say it. I think they've got the goalkeeper situation right. He's been one of the best players. For me, he's been the best goalkeeper bar probably Paulson this year in Matt Sutton. I think he's been phenomenal for them, and he hasn't really got any plaudits for what he's done. And like any good team, you need that solid base at your back. And you can see from there that they've always going to have a good back four, and you've got a running midfield as well, and an old head up front that can, get other people into the game. So when you look at it, it's actually the way they are coached, the way they are off the field. And then you got Rusi as well, who gives you something different. Who's a fucking pain in the ass, but he gives you something a bit different. He's a bit of a prick on the field, and I really like Rusi. But there's not many teams that have a battering ram to come on, and he is that for them.
Too, by the way.
He's rapid,
rapid. He did. He's fast. I didn't realise
that was a clean pair of heels time, wasn't it?
Mm.
Yeah, and he's got that little bit of NPL, bit of
mongrel.
He's not afraid. Yeah, he's always telling me to shut the fuck up. So when we play, he's always saying, "Fucking hurry up, youngie, hurry up, youngie." I've been telling him to shut up, but he's. I think they've been a bit more attacking this year, and you go, "Fucking hell, Jesus!" They're getting better and better at the right time in the season. Fair play.
They bossed this, didn't they? Let's be honest. From the start, they won the midfield battle, and their defensive line looked fucking overrun. Every time the ball went into midfield, Reece Bozanowski and Angus Thurgate, they won the first ball. And they knew, and we spoke to Johnny after, he said they know when they get the ball that they can play forward, because Riku Danzaki, fuck me, he started like a house on fire, and he just made runs in behind Kankar for fun. Kankar was like lost. He didn't know what was going on because his head was spinning. Every time they won that ball, they just played it in behind straight away, and he got in behind. And then they just put balls into the box. Obviously, you've got Bodic running in, Ibasuki in there as well. And they just did not let the Jets get a breath. From the first kickoff, they won the ball, played in behind, bang, chance. Won the ball, played forward, in behind, goal. It was quality, and it was 28 minutes or 26 minutes, I think it was, and then, or it might have been 36, that Rob Stanton had to take Clayton Taylor off and go, fuck, I need to put Mombo on here to try and secure the midfield, because it's easy to sit there and say, Kankar, you're having a stinker. He wasn't having a great game. Let's put it that way. You know, he was having a poor game. But he wasn't helped by being fucking isolated on his own with a midfielder facing forward and Rico Danzaki and the likes running in behind him. He was caught every single time. And it was over before it even fucking started. I think it was 4-0, wasn't it, after 38 minutes or 28 minutes? It was
35.
Done.
4-0 after 35.
Yeah, and it was game over then, and it was more about pride for the Jets then. Can we try and get something out of this? The second half, can we just make it? Can we get something out of the second half? Make sure pretend it's 0-0 and go from there. And it ended up 6-2. And I'm going to be honest, it could have been more. But the funny thing is, you look at the stats, and I know, I'm not a big thing I don't read everything into stats, but the Jets had 65%, 25 shots, 7 on target. They had twice as many corners, twice as many final third entries, all the things, twice as many passes. But it means nothing when your XG is 4.5 for Western United and they score 6 and they have 1.69 and score 2. Yeah. It was over early.
It was the quality of those chances. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly right. And, it's like you go up 4-0, Jamie, and it becomes, okay, let's take our time. Let's make sure we're right. And you take the foot off the pedal a little bit. And to be fair, Rob Stanton made more changes at half-time to try and stem the flow, which they were better in the second half, but I also think it was a case of, all right, we've got this in the bag now. There's no need to push the boat too far.
Yeah,
Jamie, I want to ask you about JA as a coach then, because I know this is something that interests you a lot. Just before I get there, so that's now 46 goals scored by this Western United side. That is the second highest in the league behind Western Sydney. And quick shout out to Boz, who messaged us on social media yesterday to say that this is the most goals scored, 47 goals. Previous record was 45 in 2021, and for Western Sydney, by the way. So Western Sydney are, he feels, long-time Western Sydney fan, showing 2012-13 vibes at the moment. I forgot to mention that when we were talking about that game. So to jump back forward to Western United and JA was under a lot of pressure, at least from observers over the last couple of seasons since that championship winning side. People saying, well, it's not coming together. What's he doing? How long is he going to stay? Are Western going to change coach? This season, he's come back. You say he's very structured. We who deal with him as well, because he works with us in the media as well, and it's his character. He's a fucking great guy. Like he is really just a fucking legend. I remember in the 2006 World Cup, when I'd been working as a journo over in Europe, and I was messaging a few of the players, just not invasively, but just saying fucking, good luck against Croatia or whatever. JA would always reply, thanks, mate, to a fucking mad journo fan who was following them around fucking Germany, for the World Cup. I just thought, you fucking gun.
Yeah.
And he's a player that has such experience, played in Italy, played in England, played in Spain. I mean, he would have had all those coaches that were fucking ball breakers, hardcore, and then here he is, this awesome, great guy with this bunch of kids and some experienced players, and you worked under him. What is he? What is he like to work with?
He's actually in some respects such a nice guy. Like I've always felt bad if I let him down. That was always a thing for me personally, because he is such a nice guy. But the one that obviously since I've left them and, I had a Brisbane, but came to City, you see obviously experience different coaches. And the one thing you can always tell about a John Aloisi team is that they've got real fire and a bit of CUNT about them. And that's how John played as a player. You could see they got a bit of cunt about them, and
Exactly.
when I played for them at Western, we had that. We weren't as good as a City in terms of with the ball, but in terms of defensive structure, our press, we would kick the shit out of people as well. We had winners. We had like Topper, Kilkenny. We had people who could score, and you can see when you come and you're at the game against the Western United, they are happy to piss you off, to kick you, to punch you, to be a bunch of cunts to you, and that is the embodiment of how Johnny is as a personality on the field. He's got that fire and passion. And I watched him against Adelaide, and he gave a look to the fourth official that it was like, I'm going to take your soul because you are fucking having one. He's just looked at this fourthie, and I went, I missed that sort of that bit about John. I was like, I love that. I love that side of the game that he has. And, I've said to people in that grand final when we played against City, is his team talk before the game was just perfect for me, and how he delivered it, just you knew he wasn't trying to. It's like you just knew. It was just absolutely spot on how he spoke. We belong here. We know what we're about. That's it. It was almost like we went onto the field. I looked across to the City lads, and I could just smell the fear in that team that day. And
how did he deliver it? Because you guys were the real, not underdogs. You were the unfancied. You were like the team that no one thought should even fucking be in that grand final. Remember?
He was like,
from
no one really believes in us. It was very calm, very relaxed. But for me, you only have to look left and right to see the amount of winners in that change room, like Topper Stanley, Neil Kilkenny. You had Dia in there. You had Prio. Dia didn't play. That Lusty was there. Riz was unbelievable that game against Lex. Although I heard Lex had the flu that game, which was lucky for us. Garucho had a great season. You kind of like, it doesn't really matter what people think, because what matters is what's happening here right now. There's something going on. And the way that John spoke, and then you had Foxy, Theo was there, John Anastasiadis. It was just this huge blend of experience and people in the right groove. I knew before the game personally, I was like, these guys are fucked. We're taking them all day long. And they never had to sniff that game really. So I could see what Johnny is as a coach now. He's actually really good with young people because of his family. He's got young kids himself, and he's really good with young people, and he knows when to pull off and not smash the young players so much. But he also, you don't want. There's always that level of fear with him. You don't want to cross him because he will come for you hard. Yeah. And so you can see he's had that playing career. He's had a long coaching career.
Well, I think that's important part there, Jamie, the long coaching career, because from an outsider's perspective, obviously his first coaching gig was at Hart, and it was an absolute disaster, yeah? And I can remember watching him, and he'd turn around and people were obviously getting into him, the fans, and he'd turn around and he'd bite, and he was like having a go at the fans and everything. And he's a new coach, first year in, and he's getting involved in all that kind of stuff. Then he went, a step back a little bit to youth stuff. Then he went up to Brisbane and he took over a team there, and it sort of made his own team, and things happened there. And sometimes you'd see him get involved in things as well. And now you see him and you can see the progression of him as a coach, that he doesn't get caught up in that stuff anymore. He's so much calmer on the sideline, and you can see the way that he tries to deliver things, like you've pointed out perfectly, it's calm, it's assuring. He knows how to talk to players to go, all right, I need to give you the confidence to go out and do what you got to do. And I instill that confidence, and you can see that progression. And it's funny, I had a chat to him after the game on the weekend, and we were talking about the media coverage in Australia, how there's not much of it. And I said to him, like, these days, you guys as head coaches in Australia, you get away with the post-match media conferences because there's hardly anyone in there, and you don't get asked any hard questions anymore, do you? And he said, no, he goes, actually, it's pretty sad. He said, because if we go in there and we get asked, there's a couple of young guys in there who are probably a little bit intimidated, or there's only Joey Lynch who can only ask so many questions, or Anna Harrington, they're there, they ask a couple of questions, and it's like, all right, well, how often can I keep beating the same drum at people? And he said it's disappointing because as coaches, we want to be pressed and made to think and be asked questions of and asked, put in difficult spots. And he said, and he pointed that out, he said, back when I first started, he said, fucking hell. He said, did I cop some questions? He said, there'd be a room full of people who knew football, who were in there, and one would ask a question, then the next one would come at you, and the next one, he's like, fucking hell, I've got to be on my toes here. And he said, it's got to the point where they can sort of come in and just go, oh yeah, that was a good game. Yeah, he's playing well. Oh yeah, he's a bit injured. And it's not, and he says, we need that media scrutiny to push us to be harder. And that's what I like about him as well, is that he's saying, I want that. Put me in a hard position, ask me hard questions, so I have to think about my answers, and I have to grow and develop and go, oh shit, yeah, maybe that might prod me to think a little bit more about that. And that's what I like, that you can see his progression from his early days to here now, and he still wants that to keep going, for not just for him, for the game, for everyone to be pushed and grow. And I think on top of that, him being just the nicest fucking bloke in the world would make me go, I don't want to ask you the hard questions, Johnny. I want to just go, yeah, you're a good bloke.
Yeah, no, fair play to him. And I think, they're here to stay. And, looking at City, obviously the game against Newcastle, that was a big miss for them. They would have loved a win there to stay in it amongst it. We still know there's games to go, but that would have really
the Jets are done.
Put them.
Rob's apparently already told the players he won't be there next year. I don't know what's happened in the past few months, because apparently there was a contract on the table for a long time. Discussions were going back forward. Rumour was it was then signed, and then all shit's hit the fan, and I don't know what's happened, but Rob's not going to be there. His assistant's already said he's leaving before Rob did. Yeah. There's obviously two sides to every story, but they're contrasting stories that are coming out. Haven't really heard one from the club officially yet, but from something that was looking so promising, and they just got a couple of players in and they were starting to get a run of things together, it's just all of a sudden it looks like it's fallen in a heap. And I asked Rob after the game, does that have a mental effect on the players? And he goes, well, they don't give a shit about me as a coach. No one in Newcastle does, but I think that's wrong. I think the fans actually quite like Rob.
Yeah, I think that's wrong.
Yeah, I think the fans quite like Rob. I know I'm from Newcastle. I live in Newcastle, and around town people go, he goes all right, this Rob guy. Like, they quite like him. Yeah. And I think they'd be really sad to see him go, because in Newcastle, they've seen it time and time again where someone comes in, fucking burns the place down, fucks off, and then they've got to try and pick up the pieces. And it's happened time and time again that they could start to see some shoots coming through. And I honestly believe that they're probably 3 players away from being a competitive team for the finals. And last time I was talking to the club, they were saying that they want to go and get them in the off-season and give Rob the squad that he needs. I don't know what's happened. It's a fucking bin fire again now, so... Yeah, it's disappointing.
He's obviously got good pedigree, doesn't he, Rob? He's come from Sydney. He's got standards. He knows what success looks like in the A-League. He's probably fighting the battle with one arm behind his back.
100%. But also, I think you also got to look at that.
I think most coaches are, aren't they?
Yeah.
Most coaches in the A-League at the moment are feeling that way.
Yeah, exactly. But I also think when you take on that role, you know what club you're going to. And as your job as a coach is always to push against the top to get more. I want more. I want an extra analyst. I need this, an extra player. Your job is always to do that. But you've also got to know where the ceiling is. And I don't know if maybe that's the argument they've got to, that this is where I want to be. This is where we are. This is where you knew you came in at. Well, we can't go there. We don't have the resources. That might be it. I don't know. Look, as I say, I'm not privy to those conversations, but I think both sides have to realise where the middle marker is, and they have to try and get to that as close as they can, because it ends up like this. All of a sudden, there seems to be a lot
Yeah.
of bitterness around. Within the last 10 days, it just seems to have fucking exploded.
Really?
And I will say, I do think Rob's wrong. I think the Jets faithful do like him. I think the players will miss him. And I think the club is heading in the right direction. Whether this has a destabilising effect on it, I don't know.
I think my experience from the outside and looking at it and covering football clubs is that when a coach announces before the end of the season that they're leaving, it just always falls into a stinking pile of shit. It just does.
Yeah.
Because the players, why are you playing for the coach anymore? He's leaving you. He's abandoning you.
Mm-hmm.
And people, all this sort of might think this is a bit romantic or symbolic and things like that, but it does have that effect on a playing squad.
It
does.
It does. It affects and people, players, go.
You don't know who's going to come in next. So if
Yes,
I'm playing all
exactly.
year, right, and I might have, even if I've got another year on my contract, I might be playing under Rob. Or we're just saying Rob because it's Newcastle. I'm playing under Rob. I know him well. I've formed a relationship over 2 years. He knows me. He knows me off field. He knows what my motivations are. Whether I've got a family and all this stuff. He knows all that stuff. And then the new guy might come in and just go, "I've watched the games. Don't rate you there." Bang. But you might be able to sit there and go, well, let's sit down and talk about that because I was playing that way because Rob wanted me to play that way. I can play this way instead. So all this now comes into a player's head is like, fuck. All right, am I going to be in the frame? If my contract's up at the end of the year, it's even worse. It's magnified.
Worse.
Yeah, fucking oath it is, especially if you're a younger player who's just trying to make your way in as well. That relationship, that's gone. You have to start from scratch all over again. And it does have an effect. I don't care what anyone says.
100%.
New manager comes in and
If
it's
you don't
like,
have-
fuck, what is this going to be like? Because we've been around, Jamie, long enough, both being the age we are, that we've had managers where we go, holy fuck, he is an arsehole. Someone comes in and you go, fuck, I'm done. Or I can't play for this bloke. We've all had it.
100%
Yeah.
changes in the blink of an eye. And if you don't have a recruitment policy like a City does or a Sydney, then there's no,
this is
it's
the thing.
just chaos.
Correct.
It's chaos. Anything could happen. They could sign this, that. When Robbie left, they started bringing in NPL players at Brisbane. I was just like, nah, I'm not here for this. Because Brisbane at the time we could have gone and won it. I reckon with Robbie, we were coming into a really good bit of form, and then COVID hit, and then they started looking at NPL players, and I was like,
This isn't going to take us to a
I'm here to
trophy.
win the league, mate. Yeah, and then all of a sudden you're looking at replacing this player with that player, and you're like, you see that as a player, what happens at executive level or administration level, and you look at your coach. He's getting judged by the players. Literally every word that coach says, the players are hanging on to every single word, and they don't forget it. They've got memories like bloody elephants when a coach speaks, and if you're seeing your coaches going and you're coming off contract, you're like, fucking hell, I'm in the Wild West now. I don't know where I'm going to be. This could impact me 2-3 years down the line. So that is a bit of a chaotic place to be at the minute.
Looking at that, and just interesting hearing what you're saying, Macca, and not knowing any more about it. I was looking into the Newcastle squad, and it's not new this season, but Rob Stanton, and maybe this is completely unrelated, has the same agent as about 3/4 of that playing squad. So if he's pissed and leaving, is there something, are the club moving in a certain direction, or
maybe that agent's had a lot of players in that club, and he's had the coach beforehand as well, and maybe the club new owners have come in and said, well, it's not going to be a club dominated by your players. That could be that could well be.
Yeah.
Yobbie, you may have done some investigative journalism there that breaks it wide open. that could be one of the breaking points. That's yours. That's what you found.
Was just a.
That's what you found.
I was just
mate,
shooting blind.
You've done some very good investigative journalism in your time. Maybe that's another piece of it.
Yeah, rather than going to the guy who's going to give me players, let's try and get an actual policy and look at the kinds of players we want versus going through one guy. And it's, a self-interest thing.
Would that work? Jamie, that wouldn't work, would it?
Maybe in Saudi.
And look, we're not going to have this chat now, but when a club has to be able to operate irrespective of certain elements, doesn't it? The central core of the club has to be strong enough, if you're Melbourne Victory, to have a PK who just says on the eve of the fucking derby, I'm leaving. That, you know, if players leave, if you don't win the league, you know, when things happen, you lose your major sponsor.
Robbie. It's a philosophy. It's an
the
identity
culture,
and a
the
philosophy. And
exactly. That all has to be more solid than the people that come and go.
100%. So if Rob leaves, another coach should come in who fits that philosophy that Rob already fit when he came in. I'm going to tell you, for the whole time that I was involved with the Jets, the club didn't have a philosophy. And that was a big bugging point that quite a few of us in the club wanted to try and get right. Then we tried to get that started when the CEO came in to take over at the time, and we had one meeting about it, and then it was never done again. And the club, I don't know, since the new ownership have come in, whether they've sat down and said, this is our identity, this is our club philosophy, this is the way we're going to play, this is how we're going to bring players to the club. I don't know, or bring players into the first team from below. I don't know if that's been put into place or started, because I'm not involved with the club anymore, but gee, it would be a start, wouldn't it?
It just takes time and effort for that, and people probably think it's easy to churn and burn. Let's just go from 1 year to the next. We're going to be in the A-League next year. You've got to sit down and have hours and hours of conversation to nut out what the club is, what direction, scouting, recruitment, phone calls.
And when most people
a lot of
at
effort.
The club are on 3 different jobs at most clubs.
Yeah.
People come sign on to do one job.
That's where you reap the
Invariably
benefits down the line.
So, sorry.
Understaffed, under-resourced. At Newcastle, doing 3 jobs. Brisbane's the same. You could probably fit the whole staff in one room now.
Yeah, Perth is the same.
Yep.
There's no surprise that they're all down there. Mariners is the same. When you look at the league table,
Newcastle all sit in a room. You know, 10 by 10. All the staff are in one room.
Yeah, that's a reality.
It's like a fucking episode of A-League Off Air.
Yeah. Well, we're nearly a fucking full club here, aren't we? Well, I'm doing 3 jobs.
A lot of
I don't know what Robbie's doing, mate. He just turns up and fucking speaks shit and fucking quotes some obscure band from the 1980s and then fucks off again for a week.
All right, we have 1 game left.
Fuck, we're still going.
And fortunately, there's not a whole lot to say about it. Sydney won. Wellington Phoenix won. Wellington Phoenix does what Wellington Phoenix do. 1 shot in a game, 1 shot per game. This game, they managed to score with that shot. It was initially ruled out for offside, but Costa got his Andy Harper equalising.
What a shot.
101st goal. Adrian Segicic had got a start and a goal. I was at the game. I went to go and have a watch and have a few beers with the lads from my over 45s team, which I did. So I can barely remember anything that happened, let alone tell you anything about it. But I will say that it was not the most spectacular game that we saw over the weekend. Perhaps Sydney FC, eyes on the prize. Well, I don't know. You shouldn't really say that. They've had a big week. They've qualified for the next round of the ACL2, which is massive. And they'll play the Singaporean side, Sailors, Lions, up next with Bailey Wright in that side. That is big, but they should have won this. They're outside the 6, Sydney. They are in danger of missing out. I think they're 3 points. 3 points outside the 6.
That's the big talking point now is Sydney. We talked earlier about who most people picked to win the league this year, and when they made their signings and what they've got on paper, how they're not even in the 6 at the moment is incredible. They just cannot find any cohesion. Did Segicic come off at halftime because he was injured, or was it just a change? He just seems to get what we haven't spoke about is all the celebrations this week. Everyone, where's me fucking phone call? Here's my shirt. All these young guys going to Papa, where's me phone call, fuckwit?
and Popper's going, you wait till I see you, I'm going to grab you by the fucking throat.
I know, and all I
Yeah,
could think
Barkley.
of the next window, you aren't definitely getting the fucking call up because don't piss off the national team manager. And I'm in comms and I'm going, oh, and he says there, where's my phone call? And I'm thinking, oh, don't fucking do that because Popper will be like,
Especially if Popper.
scratch his fucking name off that black book.
Yeah, wait till I get him in a headlock. I'll be getting him on the salads. Just get your skin folds right, lad.
Oh, brilliant. But yeah, this game, look, heaps of shots from Sydney, none from Wellington. Sydney are in trouble, honestly.
Yeah.
They're 3 points adrift,
Jeez.
and they should be in the top fucking 2 with their squad, without a doubt.
Because someone is going to miss out
Yeah.
of this.
And-
Someone is going to fall by the wayside in this race.
So let's have a look at their games. This is Sydney games coming up. Melbourne City, Adelaide, Auckland, Jets, Western United, and City again. So they play 4 games of their last 6 against people, or 5 games of their last 6 against people in the top 3 or 4.
Is it the old teams that are in the Champions League that affects their league? Has that happened here? I've not paid attention too much, but I do know playing in
there's
the
been
Champions
travel,
League.
obviously.
There has been
but the
trouble.
Mariners
does
did it
pay.
last year. Mariners did it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You know, in that and this Champions League is not as demanding as the Champions League 1, the elite, where you lose 4-0 every week.
Yeah, yeah. No.
Just because the clubs are fucking juggernauts. John Book was a great result for Sydney, and that's
it
a great
was.
result against a very solid side. But Sydney were every bit the match for this John Book side and got a result that they should have got. Now they should beat Lions. They should be into the final, and then we'll see who they get out of probably a Saudi side and that are in on the other side of the draw. And the final
I'm
should
gonna-
be at home.
Yeah, it is at home.
I'm
Sydney
going to
make
throw
it.
it out. Sorry.
You're right. Say what?
I'm going to throw it out again. Sydney, they've obviously made a call on their goalkeeper there, and although the young, what is he, 27, 28? So he's not necessarily
28,
that young.
yeah.
He's solid. He's come through the NPL, but I've only seen a limited amount of games. But does he have that next level where you are making absolute worldly saves, match-winning saves on a regular basis, and a club like that to be up there, you do need that. And they're probably, again, I haven't looked at it too closely, but their defence doesn't have that
Well, their defence has changed.
Yeah, Alex Green's
They've lost
coming
Hayden
in.
Matthews. They've got Rhino playing in the centre of defence. They've got Joel King and Courtney Perkins in the fullback roles. Also in front of them, they've been mixing. Leo Senna, you talk about Abubakar acclimatising quickly to the league and not diving anymore. Leo Senna's still diving.
Stick to
Still
your
at it,
guns.
is he?
Leo's sticking to his guns. I'm going to fucking dive every game. And then I'm going to look incredulously at the referee to go, what the fuck? What, I'm going to sit there on the floor while everybody else runs back and does my defensive duties and then go, oh, I'll get up now, shall I? Fuck, it's frustrating because
Exactly.
he's a good player.
Unreal.
It's good
He is a
player,
good
yeah.
player. He should be the best player in the league.
Fucking
just about.
annoys me.
Yeah.
Like, hasn't he
20
learnt now? What is
rounds
it?
in,
Round
sticking
20
at it.
fucking 3 and he's still doing it and looking just as shocked that he doesn't get the foul. Righto. 'Cause surely we've spoken enough today.
All right. Yeah, that's absolutely enough. Quick look at the standings then, even though we've kept pretty much abreast of that the whole way through. So Auckland have drawn their last 3. They are only 4 points ahead of Western United, who importantly, they have played one more than perhaps a Melbourne City, a Western Sydney and an Adelaide, but they are 4 points clear of the Wanderers in second place. Let's not forget, we remind you every time, second place qualifies for the Champions League next season. Are we going to see Champions League elite Hiroshima, Yokohama F. Marinos playing at Tarneet? Is Tarneet going to get the rubber stamp from the AFC to host Champions League football?
No fucking chance. It'll be at Amy.
No fucking chance. We're not playing at Cooper Pedy, says the AFC.
Well, after Gus Poyet's fucking rant about they don't want to travel
Exactly.
3 hours in fucking... they're not going to want to go to fucking Tarneet, are they?
Okay,
Get lost on
Wanderers.
the road somewhere.
Exactly. Well, they're buses on those dirt roads out to Tarneet. Jesus. Western Sydney Wanderers are third with Melbourne City on 34 points. Then Melbourne Victory, 33. They've played one more. 21 games played. Adelaide, 20 games played. They're also on 33 points. That is your 6 at the moment. Gentlemen, very quickly. Sydney are 3 points behind. Macarthur are 5 points out of the 6. Then come the bottom 4. Jets, Mariners, Phoenix, Raw, and Perth, who are now in bottom 5 rather. Yep. Can Sydney or Macarthur turn this around, or are Macarthur gone? I asked at the start, Jamie. Macca, what do you reckon?
I would say Macarthur's a huge stretch, and I would say they're likely no.
Yeah.
And so who's going to miss out? Let's go. Okay, what I want from you two before we say goodbye. You're, Macca, I know, saying that Tarneet is going to be the centre of the universe on that last match day round to see who finishes first in the league between when Western United host Auckland in round 27. By the way, you were right, only 26 games this year. How the fuck have we added an extra team and reduced the number of games we're playing? You said that last week. Insane.
Must be a
mistake.
In the
CBA. So if we say the Premier's Plate is still up for grabs, who is going to miss out on finals football?
Jesus Christ, that's a tough one, isn't it? Fuck.
I'm looking at
I can't see a world where Sydney don't get in.
Yeah, I'm looking
They're
at Adelaide.
behind the 8 ball at the moment.
Yeah, they got a tough run, don't they? Jeez.
Adelaide beat Sydney, and they beat Victory next week. I'm going to say Sydney are going to miss out. Adelaide have got Victory and Sydney next. They're the next 2 games. If they win those 2, if they get 6 points there, I'm going to say Sydney out.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna have to stop. We're at fucking an hour and 40.
Woo!
This is the longest pod ever. Don't forget, no A-League next weekend.
Yeah.
Exactly. The Socceroos are taking on Indonesia and China. Let's go 6 points to get us into the World Cup again. 6 World Cups in a row wouldn't be bad. All right. Is that it? Are we covered?
That's it. Don't subscribe.
We've solved football, at least
don't
for this
go
week.
On Twitter because Robbie
don't
doesn't
subscribe.
Go
don't tell your
anymore,
mates. We don't give a fuck. Exactly. Just listen
we're on
to the
Insta,
podcast,
we're on Twitter,
people.
We're on Blue Sky, apparently, and we're on YouTube.
Oh, shit. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Righto. See you in a fortnight.